Welcome to the Inspiring Coaches Show, the podcast devoted to inspiring coaches to bring their professional dreams to life by revealing the knowledge, insights, and best practices of other inspiring coaches. I'm your host, Jen Anderson, PCC, early settler of the coaching industry, lover of all things coaching, and what coaching is doing to make the world a better place. Well, hello out there, and welcome to the Inspiring Coaches Show. And as you know, each week I love to start the episode with a celebration from a real world coach out there. And so today our celebration is coming from Eileen, who is an experienced coach in the US. And Eileen says, I am learning so much as I'm preparing for the ICF credentialing exam. I'm proud to be a member of a profession that has such high standards for our practice and performance, as well as our ethical behavior. I couldn't agree more. So yay, Eileen. Good luck with that exam. I'm sure you'll do really well with it. So I want to invite each of you, dear listeners, to send in a brief 2 to 3 sentence celebration from your own work as a coach in the world. Each episode, I like to share 1 or 2 of these as yet another way to inspire our listeners. So please email me your celebration. Keep in mind, though, that we do have an imperative for confidentiality, as always, as coaches. So you can send that in to me at jennifer@coachingoutofthebox.com. Well, today our guest is Yeta Stanil, and Yeta is a seasoned team coach with a passion for fostering collaborative and inclusive work environments. With a rich background in organizational psychology and over 20 years of experience in behavior change, Yeta specializes in guiding teams toward effective communication, mutual respect, and shared goals. She's worked with a diverse range of organizations all over the world, implementing strategies that nurtured leadership, creativity, and a sense of community. Yeta is especially skilled in inclusivity, integrating DEI principles into corporate cultures, ensuring every team member feels valued and empowered. And today, Yeta is ready to chat with me about all things team coaching, which is kind of a new set of competencies within the coaching profession. So I'm really excited to hear some more about Yeta's experience. And to get you centered on her topic, Yeta has provided us with this quote: in the ever-evolving landscape of corporate culture, team coaching is not just beneficial, it's essential. It's the key to creating and unlocking the potential of diverse teams, fostering an environment where every voice is heard and valued. Hang on 1 second as I turn the page. So while you're pondering that bit of wisdom, we'll take a quick break to hear from our inspiring sponsor, and then we'll be right back. Yeta Stanil.
Hi, I'm so glad you're here. You may be wondering, why start your own coaching business? Well, one of the key benefits of starting a coaching business is that it allows you to help others succeed. You can help your clients set and achieve their goals, learn new skills, and make positive changes in their lives. This can be an extremely rewarding experience. It can help you build relationships of trust with your clients and help you feel more fulfilled in your work. Owning your own coaching business is a great way to do what you love, to be able to choose your clients and set your own rates and work where and when you want. When you start your own coaching business, you have more potential for work-life balance, and you can work on your own terms. So this means that you can choose the work that you want to take on and set your own hours. You're in charge of your own business. You have control over your life and your work schedule. Another benefit of starting a coaching business is that it's often quite profitable, and there's lots of demand for coaching services. This makes coaching a great business opportunity for aspiring entrepreneurs like you. Owning your own business can be a great way to ensure that you can secure your future and that you're able to take more control of your destiny. It's an empowering feeling when you're more in control and are more certain about the path you want to take in your life. It's time to put yourself in the driver's seat and take that next important step in your career journey. You've got this, and we're here to help.
All right, well, welcome back. And as a quick reminder, today we're talking with Yeta Stanil about her passion for team coaching. So hi, Yeta.
Hi, how are you? It's so good to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here. And I'm really excited because this is actually our first time meeting and our first time talking.
Yeah, it's really exciting to be here. And I'm just so honored because for your listeners, I went through the program with your organization to do my ICF certification. So as I was listening to the celebration and what you were reading about taking the exam, and I thought, oh, I remember those days. I remember what it's like to go through all the work and the prep and the courses and the studying. And like you said, we pass, we get through it. And so my heart goes out to all of the listeners out there who are in the process of doing their ICF certification. I have been there, and a word of encouragement, keep going, you will get there. And if it hadn't been for your organization, I really don't think that I would have gotten through it. Honestly, I really think that was the critical part of my success, was a community and a group of facilitators and leaders to just hold my hand and walk me through it. It is a very rigorous, thorough process to go through. So yeah, I'm super grateful for the organization, and just glad to be here and share whatever I can about my experience, but also what coaching has been for me.
Well, thank you for that, and for the encouragement for everyone out there to go the distance with it. It's definitely something that benefits, I think, not just the coach, but also all of our clients, the coaching community, and really the world, to go the distance. And the exam, did you take the new exam, the multiple
Yes.
choice? Yeah, and how did that go for you?
I was a little bit worried. There was a lot of conversation about that. I started the process right when they were implementing, the whole change. Was not really for sure if we were going to have to or not, but we had to. And, I did my prep work with you all, and then I just sat down and said, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to take it. And I did. And I got up and went, oh, holy cow, I passed.
Yay.
We always have those moments. And I thought, I don't know, it's going to be really hard. It's a new one. And I did, and I got through it, and I was so relieved.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I love that there's a bit of a rite of passage around all of it as well, that this is something that is serious and valued, as is team coaching. So I definitely want to segue over to talking a bit about team coaching and your passion for that. So how did you get inspired to kind of focus in on this as a big part of what you do as a coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I've been a coach, a certified coach, my entire career. I actually have 12 certifications. And so the reason I bring that up is I started as a health coach and personal trainer way back in my first career, back in my 20s. And so at 51, you guys can do the math. I've always been in the space of, where are you? Where do you want to be? Let me help you get there. It just evolved over time. And, the wellness industry was first, and it was wonderful. And then I went in and did my MBA. And when I did that, I remember the facilitators at the university, my advisors, they take you through all these little assessments. And they said, have you ever thought about doing executive coaching and consulting? And I've been in the wellness industry as an entrepreneur and also as a practitioner. And I was thinking, no, I'm in my lane. I love what I'm doing. And that was really my first introduction into more of a group dynamic, a more corporate environment. And that's when I went into narrative coaching, strength finders. I certified in the Gallup Strength Finders. And at that time, I was still doing individual work. And I thought transitioning out of wellness and moving into leadership development and in the corporate, business world, I thought that was the leap, and that was pretty much all I was going to do. And, what I realized was peopling is hard. The challenges that clients would come to me with was always about other people. And I was so grateful that my first degree was in behavior change and in psychology. So I knew enough about human behavior. If I had a dollar for every time I said this over the past almost 30 years, you cannot change anyone's behavior but your own. It's just that simple. And yet here we were in the corporate world, and I was, making that leap into, how do I tell the story about corporate leadership development, all of these skills when I'm, the personal trainer, health coach turned, executive coach. So I had to learn to tell that story, which was, I'm just a really good at behavior change. I always have been. And I remember thinking, why aren't we using the strategies around behavior change that we use in wellness over in corporate? It was like they were two different worlds. And it was just really odd to me. I thought, we've got to start talking about how behaviors are built. We never really used the word back then, this is 2010. We never talked about beliefs when we talked about leadership. And so as those worlds really started merging and integrating, I just started putting them together. And then that's what led me to, as I went through and then got ICF certified and was doing all of these other things, I was also in a team coaching certification process when I was working with you all. And that happened because I realized I'm working with an individual and asking them to change their behaviors, to do the inner work, to understand and become self-aware, really assess what their belief systems were, show up differently with new ways of skills and meaning making. And yet the people in the room, nothing was changing. And here's what I do know, and maybe your listeners know this, maybe they don't. The number one predictor for behavior change is social norms. It's all the data shows. If I take you out of the environment you're in and put you in a different environment, even if I give you no skill training, no anything, as a human being, we are herd, we're mammals. So we are herd-like creatures. And so we will either adapt or we will leave the herd, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the coaching world with leaders, I would just say, look, people coach up or they coach out. And then I started realizing, well, why is that? And it was because either the environment, the culture would support their new growth and their new way of being, or it wouldn't. Either the leader coaches up and coaches out, or the people that are struggling either coach up or coach out. So I go back to answer your question, was I really started thinking, okay, well, I've done a lot of individual work and assessment and understanding around human behavior and coaching individuals. The problem still, though, is teams. It's the individuals that report. And so what do we do next? And so that's when I started getting really curious about understanding, how does a team work? And a team is just a collective of all of these individual belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really got curious, and I started looking at what would apply to coaching a team and what new skills might I need to learn about coaching a team. And I mean, think about this. We walk in a room, whether it's personal or professional, every day of our life. And until we do the work, we just assume everybody is making the same meaning we're making, and everybody's going to do it the way I want them to do it. And if they don't, they're the problem. So how do you take a dozen people and put them around a table and expect them to do good work if everybody is coming from their own perspective and their own awareness? And then I thought, well, this is going to be really fun. And so team coaching really gave me a whole lot more skills to learn how to do a different type of coaching with a group of people. It's not group facilitation. It's not workshop facilitation. It's literally coaching teams of people like I learned how to coach one individual.
That is the distinction that I think is so interesting. I'm going to jump in here because the client in team coaching is the team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very different than individual coaching or even group coaching, other kinds of coaching in general. So how do you really see that distinction playing out in what you're doing?
Yeah. And, it's interesting. I'm also in a new question, and I would have said, last year, yes, the team is and I'm putting client in air quotes, because narrative coaching, one thing I learned was that the moment is actually the client. And so we've got the leader, we've got the team, and then I'm going to say the moment. And in team coaching, we actually might interchange another word and put the stakeholders need to be considered in this equation too. And they could be your vendors, they could be your clients you serve, they could be the environment at large. And so sustainability comes into play. And what I think the key differentiator is, what I learned in team coaching was teaching people a new way of operating that says, who I am, what I think, how I feel, and what I do impacts other people, places, and the planet at large.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really learned how to bring that language into the room and say, it's not about your agenda or my agenda. It's the agenda, which is the common vision. And it's not the one the CEO's come in and dumped in the table in the middle. He's a part of this conversation, or she's a part of this conversation as well. But we get to collectively co-create the vision. And they actually take the word mission out in team coaching because it's very kind of colonizing. And so they talk about purpose. And it really helps people say, oh, I get a voice. I get to add in what I think. So it's not a hierarchy of here's my purpose or my vision or my mission. And now you guys figure out how to go do it. So the siloing and the splitting off began to start to dissolve. And I thought, oh, this is going to be really cool to learn. We're talking about empowerment, building a belief of empowerment for each individual around the room that then can collectively come together and empower the organization to move forward as a whole unit. And so when I say the word empowerment, just for our listeners, so I can be clear, I remember having to go, well, what's the true definition of empowerment? And I went back and looked, and it says it's the ability to make a conscious decision to take charge of your own future and allowing others to do the same. So there's just a whole different dynamic that comes in team coaching that's outside of the individual coaching, because now we have to learn how to play together and share and talk and communicate. And if we think about this, where we're at in the world right now, everyone that comes to the table has their own unique human story. As coaches, we learn how to do that with the individual. And now all of a sudden I might have 8 stories at the table, and it's filtering all the data, all the information, and all the meaning making in 8 different ways. So it's like looking through a kaleidoscope. And it's a beautiful process, but learning how to do that as a coach was really, 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 it was so helpful for me, because I have my own biases I bring in as a coach. And so I think, just to answer your question, as I started pulling all of that apart, I thought, wow, this has huge, huge impact in organizations. There's a lot of people out there talking about diversity, equity, inclusion. It sounds great. We're doing a lot of talking about it. And then I thought, but what are we really doing to teach people how to really see what they believe and then make conscious choice to either choose what they believe or choose to believe something new or different? And so that's where I think team coaching is really, I think over the next 10 years, you're going to see it explode in corporate. I think people are starting to see the value, but we've never talked as openly about inclusivity pre-COVID, pre-racial reckoning that we've been seeing around the world, especially here in the US over the past few years. And I think it's going to be an answer. So I found it, I should say it found me, saw it somewhere, and I went, oh, maybe that could be a next piece for me. And it really has transformed my coaching work and my consulting work enormously.
So I have a question for you. You used a word that I think, actually, when we were talking before the show, you talked about this a little bit, which is teaching. And that was a question that you asked yourself, or something you said about teaching people to, not just, it was around the word empowerment. So how has your expertise or your love of teaching meshed well within this coaching opportunity?
Yeah, that's another great question. And, we're obviously taught as coaches that we're not here to technically teach.
Right. That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, that's why you're asking. So I remember my ICF credentialing. And I do have to be really clear when I'm working with clients to name, what hat do I have on? Am I coaching? Am I consulting? Because I do both. Am I facilitating? Am I teaching? And so, this integrative way of working is what I call it. Learning, I feel like Mary Poppins. I come in and I've got the big bag and I'm like, what am I going to pull out today? And I do have to name what role I'm in when I'm working with a team. What I do love with a team that is a little bit more fun and flexible than with the individual is we do get to do things like, oh, today is a workshop where we're going to learn. I am teaching about a topic. I'm not coaching. I'm not consulting. I'm in this hat, and I want to teach you, for instance, the ladder of inference. How people climb the ladder of inference is a tool we use in psychology that says, here's how meaning making occurs, and here's how beliefs are built. And so when I name that and say, I want to give you the foundation so you know the language I'm going to be using when we're in the room together, It's also helpful to teach them some of these basic fundamental skills, I would say, so that then they understand, oh, I'm climbing the ladder of awareness in a very different way than the person sitting next to me. And what that is that's the wake up call to turn to that person and then cultivate curiosity and ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
And so my teaching is to say, let me share new information and let it allow you to go deeper into your it's like teaching them to start to learn the coaching conversation and language. I'm curious, Jen, when you say this, this is what I hear and think and feel, but can you tell me what you are thinking and feeling when you say that? And maybe it's the same, maybe it's similar, maybe it's really on opposite ends of the spectrum. And so the teaching allows me the ability to bring in a lot of my contextual and my background in psychology and say, let's just talk about how human beings operate. And let's just name, we bring in 8 strangers into the room every day on a quote unquote, I'm using air quotes again, team. I think a lot of people think they have teams, and what they really have is a pseudo group. Really not cultivated team. And so we expect you to sit down and just show up and not talk about all the things you're bringing into the room. Did you have a sleepless night with your kids sick? Did you, are you going through a divorce? Are you what are all the life things happening? And I'm not saying we put all that in the room verbally, but unconsciously we're bringing it in.
Mm-hmm.
So the teaching for me is helping people to find language to be able to name the experiences they're in and that they're having, like I would with a one-on-one client. Now, though, I'm doing it in a group setting that then as they see that modeled, then they hopefully can learn how to do that when the team coach isn't in the room, because we're not there all the time. They've got to learn how to get along.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of the goal.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this, as coaches, the worst thing we can do is create a codependent relationship.
Exactly.
And say, oh, you got to get the answers from me. And, you can't do anything without your coach. And that's so old school. And now we're moving into back to empowerment. I'm not here to give you the answers, but I'm here to help you learn a habitual way of meaning making to begin to find the answers on your own or with other people, places, and things, so you can build a belief of empowerment. And when we build that belief, inclusivity comes right alongside of it.
Mm-hmm. You brought up so many key words, I think, around kind of what's at the heart of coaching with inclusivity, of collaboration. Partnership is really coming to mind. And I'm wondering, because as coaches, we don't want to create codependency. We don't want to create this sense of you need me here in order to. So I'm wondering if partnership within the team is also an element of team coaching.
Yeah, well, one word we use is co-regulation. So we move from codependency to co-regulation, which means, and this, it's so interesting because it kind of goes back to my wellness days where I talk about, I use the language body, mind, spirit. We talk about stress. We talk about, mental, physical, emotional, social, spiritual. It's all part of the human experience. And when we talk about co-regulation, when I walk in a room, my presence, my energy, my belief, my thoughts, my feelings, my behaviors, they are present in the room. And it's not spoken. And I walk in and who I am has a presence. And so if I sit down at a table with, 6, 7 other people, all of a sudden we now are collectively creating by all of our own presence, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I show up and I'm tired, irritated, in a negativity bias, I'm doing things that, to manage my stress level that, diminish my energy, don't fill it back up. I'm coming in and I am contributing something to the group that is either going to co-regulate, where we are going to come into what I would say is resonance, into alignment together, or I'm going to create dissonance, which is separation or friction. And whatever the collective is in the group is going to win. And so in team coaching, that is part of the conversation, is bringing in that fact that co-regulation. And so one word we use in team coaching is psychological safety. If I don't feel safe in the room with this group of people, I am neurologically going to change how I take in information. My prefrontal cortex is going to go offline. This is basic biology. And all of a sudden, I've been set off and triggered into a fight or flight response. And that could be done non-verbally, because something someone does in the room takes me to a place where I go, I'm not safe. So a core component in team coaching is teaching the group what is psychological safety, what does it look like, what does it feel like, and what's the language that we can use to foster that ability for us to know that as we sit together, our nervous systems are actually speaking to each other as much as our words are.
So interesting, because now I'm really understanding conceptually what you're talking about, coaching a moment. So I'm even saying, yes, you're in a room, you're gathered, or you're on Zoom and you're gathered. It's a moment, but there's a moment that's just inherent within the team at any time. It's the word ecosystem is coming to mind. I'm not sure if I'm applying it
exactly.
perfectly,
Yeah, that absolutely comes into
okay.
team coaching, and that's what we're. Sometimes we even bring in an empty chair and set it at the table to honor the unspoken, the invisible. It could be the moment, it could be the stakeholders we're serving. And so that energy that you're talking about, we are coaching the moment, and that moment has wisdom and it has insight, and it's got breath and space and room to exhale, to go, there's another player at the table. And that element creates curiosity. We have a lot of fun with it. And that it just gives people the ability to know that it doesn't have to all fall on them. I mean, where do all insights and ahas come from? We think they come from ourselves and our thoughts. The truth is, the greatest innovators and global game changers of our times, they received those insights and awarenesses. And so now we're starting to talk about that. Where does innovation come from? It comes from the power of questioning, curiosity, of not knowing. And the moment is not something that we can harness or know. And so this space in team coaching really says that takes the pressure off of, I've got to have the answer or someone else does. We're creating at another level, and that ecosystem that we're creating as a team unit that comes together. And this is what I love about going back to co-regulation. If we come together and co-create together, we create another, what I want to call like a third space that's not mine, not yours. It's a collective space that we've created together, and it lives on its own. So when we are away from the team setting, we're not relying on something to please us or make us happy, or so we come back together in this relationship, and the whatever we've created together is a living, breathing entity. And so that's such a fun place in team coaching. It allows for a lot of use around imagination and improv. And so innovative teams are highly inclusive, and inclusive teams are highly innovating. I mean, it's so cool to see, because back to the kaleidoscope. I walk in and I've got all these fractals, and I'm looking, the moment is looking at it through everyone's perspective, not just mine, not just yours.
Whoa, you got me thinking about so many different things, like the comings and goings of members of teams and hiring processes, and finding the right, I'm doing air quotes, the right person for the team. It really takes a much greater, it creates a greater impact thinking about these different things. And then I'm also wondering about how open teams are. And I can imagine that there's environments where people are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right. And then there's got to be, teams where it's like, oh, bring it. It's going to, notch us up, take us up.
Yeah. And I think, in team coaching, one of the things we do right out of the gate, though, is we do assess where is the team, quote unquote team. Are they a group? Are they a pseudo group? Are they a group? Are they a newly formed team, a functioning team, or a highly functioning team? Because there's kind of a curve. And when we get an idea of where they are, just like in regular coaching, then we know where the entry point is. And that also dictates how much knowledge, how much awareness, what does this team need? And team coaching does give us the ability to come in and offer a lot of different things, cafeteria style. We might need some education. We might need some facilitation. We might need some true coaching. It really has a lot more diversity than I think when we're just in the one-on-one space. But what I also want to make sure I say is, when we do the team coaching, it's always done with another coach. So I would never go into a team and coach that team by myself. I have a co-coach. And the reason for that is the co-coach and I also, back to that co-regulation and that resonance, when she or he sees something that I don't see, we learn how to interchange. And so we're role modeling empowerment and inclusivity and constructive criticism or creation in a way that the team doesn't just get my bias or my perspective, because I'm going to bring it. I mean, it's unheard of to think someone walks in and goes, well, if someone comes into you and says, I'm not biased, run.
Absolutely.
They are. And so I think that's an important distinction too. I feel like the pressure gets released a little bit because I'm working with someone else and we pass it back and forth and learn. And so I can breathe and exhale. And sometimes when I'm not speaking and the other coach is, my role is to just hold space for the room, the people, and my co-coach, and just let awareness do its work.
Oh, I could go on with you, Yeta. And I've got a time limit. So I want to ask you, because it's so obvious how passionate you are. Really just, and I think even just listening, but seeing you as well, and the sparks that happen for you as you're talking about these concepts. So even you must have a next stretch. So what is your next stretch as a coach, Yeta?
Yeah, I'm still in that question, to be quite honest. I like to live in the question of what's next. So as I'm living it, I just kind of let life bring different things. And so what the question has brought me recently is, I mentioned I'd done 12 different certifications. One of them was an inner MBA certification with Sounds True, which was so fascinating to me about all the inner workings of like mindful mastery of behaviors and aspirations that mirror the, executive or the outer MBA. And what that led me to is the group I did this with has partnered with a university. And they said I could transfer all of my knowledge in and all of my work and my ICF and all my certifications and my degrees. And all I'd have to do is write my dissertation for a PhD in transformative business leadership. And I've always wanted to do my PhD. And so that's been a really fun place. So I started that a few months ago. And I created my own coaching manual, and turns out 70% of the manual has been a decade's worth of research and coaching clients. And they said you could use that for probably, 60% of your dissertation. So I'm like, wow, who knew? I was like, I always do things backwards, that I was already doing the research, already writing the paper and didn't know it. So I'm really excited about that, because what I really want to do is help leaders understand how to transform behaviors in a manner with themselves, with their teams, their organizations, to know that everything we do has impact. What we do matters. It matters to ourselves, to the people that are in our immediate vicinity, to our teams, to the world we live in. And when I hear people talk about kindness and compassion and inclusivity, and they're great buzzwords, I don't see a lot of organizations really understanding how are you coming together to learn how to create that belief system so it becomes a part of your own leadership culture and then the culture of your organization and your teams collectively. Do that, they're just words. We're not changing people's beliefs by allowing them the ways to say, here's how you create the belief of compassion or kindness or inclusivity. And so that next stretch for me is to really, I guess, flex that muscle to just get another level of, being a female walking into a, largely dominated male world, credentials matter. When we go to speak and teach, people are looking for, what blessings, what fire have you been through? And I think the PhD just would allow me to just speak from another level. And what I want people to wake up and learn how to be more loving and kind with each other. I mean, then we all become coaches.
And there's so many beautiful pathways to the expression of that and the creation of that. And so, wow. Okay. Well, you just said so much. I'm going to listen back to that. It's really beautiful. So how can coaches connect with you personally if they want to continue the conversation?
Yeah. And I love working with coaches, by the way. So I have lots of great resources online for that. And first is you can go to my website, sit with Yeta. It's YED like David, YEDDA.com. And that has all the information on there. My website talks about everything that we've talked about. Certainly on social media, sit with Yeta. There's a lot of resources out there. You can follow me. And, I have an online classroom with tons of content, and that's suascommunity.com. So you just get out there. I'm sure you can just type it all in and it'll come together and you can find it. I'm just passionate that more people get aware of what else is out there. People are getting ready to take ICF. Yes, coaching is just the beginning, but it opens your world to so many other things. And we can keep adding and adding. And I don't always put the hat of team coaching on, but when it's appropriate, I wear it. If not, I'm in the individual coaching or teacher or facilitator. And so it's all out there, but those websites, you can easily find me. And I think worst case scenarios, you can just Google Yeta Stanil, and I hope good things pop up. I've never Googled myself. Maybe I should.
Well, I always joke that when I Google Jennifer Anderson, I get everything Jennifer Aniston, page after page.
Oh,
So
hey, that's not a
SEO
bad
is not my
thing.
friend. Well, yes and no. SEO
Well,
is
Brad
not
Pitt probably comes along somewhere in that equation.
probably, yes.
I'm going to go. That wouldn't bother me a bit.
Too fun. All right, well, yeah, if you can hang on just a little bit longer, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to share with everyone else how they can apply to be a guest on the Inspiring Coaches Show.
Hello. On behalf of all of us here at the International Coaching Group, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. We hope you are enjoying the Inspiring Coaches Show. This podcast is just one example of the many resources and tools we offer. If you are looking for an ICF accredited coach educator, look no further. Our flagship 555 Coaching Skills Training Program has been taught to over 45,000 people in over 38 countries. Our signature Fast Track to ICF credential program has been one of the many reasons both individuals and corporations worldwide have chosen the International Coaching Group to support their coaching skills training. Imagine the impact you could make as a coach educator. The power to inspire, motivate, and transform is within your reach. Please reach out to an enrollment coach today. It would be our sincere pleasure to support your coaching needs.
All right. Well, I would love to hear from some of you out there who think you'd like to be a guest on the show. So we're always looking for inspiring guests. If you're interested, you can send an email to jennifer@coachingoutofthebox.com and include your topic idea and a short blurb on how you think it will inspire coaches to bring their professional dreams to life. Of course, as we all know, inspired coaches believe in expressing gratitude. So Yeta, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today with our group.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing your wisdom. And it's a collective process. I mean, I say this all the time. We can't see something in someone else unless we already have it. So when we notice wisdom, it is because we have wisdom. And so I would say thank you for your wisdom and for just holding space for that to be created, and for our listeners as well. Their wisdom is a part of our conversation too, even though we can't see them here today. So I'm honored, I'm grateful, and I just want everyone that's out there that's thinking about this coaching journey or this process, I just want to encourage you, keep going. Keep following the path, and know that you have an impact you can make in the world with the people that you have a heart to work with, and your voice is needed and you matter simply because you exist.
So Yeta, we are a moment.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
Okay.
we are.
Just making sure I got my learning. Okay.
And that's all we really are, is the moment.
We are the moment. We are the moment. It's beautiful. Thank you for that. All right. Well, so also thank you to the International Coaching Group for giving us this venue to create our moment and to be a moment. And thank you to all our listeners out there for your contribution to this. We wouldn't be here without you. So thank you very much. And until next time, I'm Jen Anderson, and this is the Inspiring Coaches Show.